Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the cold and flu season of New Zealand. Apologise if I sound a little bit husky today, but I'm a little under the weather and surviving on Difflam and Strepsils. So if I suddenly sound like Barry White, that's not my fault. But welcome to this week's episode of the Macro Lounge podcast. I'm, of course, your co-host, Chris Bold, joined by the stunning queen of spuckles, Rachel Mead. How are you today, Rachel?
Have thus far managed to avoid the flu, whatever that's been going around, so I'm actually not too bad. Just a little bit stressed at the moment with all the keys. Do you know what? Actually, Chris, so you know how you have cool as a cucumber under how stressed are you this week in the check-ins? Petitioning to put the other end, instead of just saying I'm anxious or stressed, petition to say a stressed lemon zest.
Stressed lemon zest?
Mm-hmm. I identify as a stressed lemon zest these days.
Well, that's because people can't follow simple instructions or order your bikini 12 weeks out. They think 12 days is an appropriate time frame for a custom handmade bikini, apparently.
It's okay. We're slowly getting there. We are catching up on the days we've missed because I realised I've actually missed out on like a whole week of work the past 2 weeks without
a
trips.
Whole week?
3 days.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So it's been busy. It's been busy, and then we've got our composing workshop coming up this weekend.
That's true. That I'm looking forward to that one. We'll pop down on Friday. Have to be back bright and early because somehow I managed to rope myself into doing a 6-kilometer fun mud run, and I'm not exactly sure those two words go together, but you know,
not in this cold as well.
No, I don't think it was necessarily my wisest suggestion, but you know.
Feel like that's a summer thing. I feel like you should have done that when it was warmer.
As I said, probably not the best posing. Much like why they do bodybuilding shows in the middle of winter. You know, when everybody's skinny and complains about cold, and you know, like who was it yesterday? Jen was saying that she's got fluffy bed socks on, and I think she's doing her cardio in a bathrobe. I was like, okay. Doesn't sound like fun.
That's fair, yeah. I mean, it's cold. Why are we leaning winter?
I know. Probably because nobody would, in this part of the world, nobody would actually prep over, that nobody would prep in winter to be lean for summer. It's like, because it would just tie in at the wrong time of the year. It's like, you want me to prep over summer, over East, over Christmas, over all of those things, and then be lit? No, I don't.
We've got too many holidays in summer.
Yeah, I know. Probably shouldn't tell that to our international listeners, because you actually explain to them how many public holidays and how many holidays we get, paid vacation time. The average American is going to look at you and go, what the? So they don't have a lot of that sort of stuff.
Okay.
Which sounds like a them problem. Yep, sounds like a them problem. Anyway, not to ramble on. So this week we've decided, well, actually, no, I shall correct this. The something Rachel has decided that we're going to discuss peak week and everything you've thought about that or been told that might need rethinking. So before we get started, I already know some coaches listening are probably going to disagree with parts of this episode, what I say, which is absolutely brilliant, because I genuinely hope that they do. Because hopefully, coach, it gets a better discussion going on. And if they're going to disagree with me, don't tell me that this is how it's always done. Tell me why. I'm hoping that people do disagree, because I'd love to see, coaches or athletes to, show me the physiology behind it. Show me the mechanism, how it works. So if this episode does one thing, I don't want it teaching people what to think. I want it to teach people how to think.
Very nice, Chris. Great teaching moment. And also I did note that you said that it was my idea, so that you can't get the blame for this one.
You caught on to that part. Yes, very subtle.
I did, yes. Because there is a lot of things that go on in peak week and also a lot of ideas, and there's a lot of different strategies that different coaches will use. And again, there will be different coaches that use different methods. People will disagree. That's okay. That is fine.
It's not saying they're wrong. It's not saying that they're wrong. Well, actually, some of them probably will say they're wrong. And then again, if their coach doesn't like it.
Again, this is just us saying, if you don't agree, that is fine. Move on.
Yeah, yes, it's like, yes, there's nothing to hear here. We don't,
Yeah, we can have the
we
discussion or move on. Don't just come at us and yell at us and say that we, I don't know, have lied, or I don't know, would you say that we've discredited you or whatever? Like, I don't know.
misinformation.
This is just us and our thoughts and having a conversation.
We're,
So
we're, we're encouraging free and independent thought, and
yes,
because it really, peak week is probably the most overcomplicated week in bodybuilding, and the reality of it is, it's just stupid. Peak week should be the easiest week. It's it's suddenly all these things change when people come into peak week, and people just start to lose their freaking minds. Water becomes the enemy, salt is the enemy, Diet Coke suddenly is the devil's liquid. And honestly, half of this shit that people come up with, I literally stand there and go, huh? What? Why? I think the best probably example that we've had, Rachel, was coffee.
yeah.
But I will talk about that later. But yes,
okay, we'll come back to that one, because that one is shocking to me as I'm drinking my coffee right now.
exactly. So the biggest the biggest lesson that I've learned from coaching hundreds of athletes, it hasn't been learning more tricks, because there's no magic trick on peak week. It's probably been learning tricks that I didn't need. I stopped asking, what worked for me, and started asking what works for the athlete, because whenever someone tells me to cut water or manipulate sodium or stop creatine, my first question, whenever they say this is what I'm doing, my first question is always, why? Show me the mechanism, show me how it works. If the answer is this is how it's always been done, which is, to be fair, in a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today, I've probably done in the past, because that's what we thought was right, because that's what we were told. So
what are some things that you used to do, Chris, that you no longer do as part of your peak weeks? What are some things that you used to be like, yes, this is what we should do in peak week?
God, it's even simple things. I think we saw somebody the other day. Somebody was saying about the amount of money that they spent on supplements from peak week. I'm like, I used to do all that. It's like, you need to take X supplement, Y supplement. You need to do all these sort of things. Probably the one that gets me the hottest under the collar is water loading for bikini, particularly the bikini wellness, and say not so much fitness model and ICM, but say fit model and IFBB. If you understand the basic physiology around how water and glycogen and all this shit works, that's one where I just go, I'm not a rocket scientist, but 1 + 1 still equals 2 in my book, and I'm pretty sure what you just said is absolute bullshit. But we'll get into that.
We're going to be ruffling a few feathers, because there are some that are really common that we don't necessarily agree with. So shall we go with what should peak week look like, do you think, Chris? What should we expect in peak week?
What should we? That's actually a really interesting question. Peak week should be boring. The one thing I've learned over the years is, like, athletes don't respond. They don't read spreadsheets, right? They don't. They basically respond to physiology, and physiology doesn't care how experienced you are or where you are in prep. I mean, the reality is it'll humble you every time. Like when I was a younger coach and I had more hair and actually had a color to it, I probably manipulated a lot more things because I thought more variables meant more control. So there was more tweaking, there were more adjustments, there was more precision into the peak week. And if anything, it pretty much the opposite. It's looking at what has worked for the athlete leading into peak week. So, because I now sort of look at it like every variable that you introduce is an opportunity to get it wrong. Like if you, for example, sodium, if you've been having sodium through your whole prep, pulling it out is potentially a recipe for disaster. The same thing for coffee. If you've been having 2 cups of coffee every day throughout your prep, okay, it's a mild stimulant and it can technically be a mild diuretic, but the reality of it is you've clearly adapted to it, and it also makes you happy. So taking that out makes for a miserable Rachel, and and not necessarily achieve any result because, I think
Because she will
that's
be
one of the,
grumpy on stage and backstage, and she will not be able to pose well because she's grumpy because she's had no coffee.
yeah. I mean, I guess probably the thing that's changed over the years for me is that the experience has taught me which tools I don't need anymore. Like there was, as I said, there was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of stuff that we used to do that was because that's what you did, right? There was no explanation about why it worked. It's just this is what you do. So I guess over changed over the time as my curiosity. So I stopped trying to prove that my system worked and started to try to understand why something worked. And that's kind of a completely different mindset. You know, there is now something works for athlete A, but then, and they look incredible. And then you sort of apply that same rule to athlete B and they respond completely differently. And that's when you sort of come to realize there isn't a perfect peak week. There's only the right peak week for that athlete that's right in front of you. And weirdly enough, I'd say over the years, I've become less certain. And instead of saying this always work, it's always what does this athlete actually need? And one of the biggest dangers I think in coaching is falling in love with your own system. It's like I have produced X number of first place winners or X number of pro cards, and this is the way you do it. And you go, yeah, but I'm not Rachel Mead, so I can't do that.
As the more you know, the less you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So actually,
I mean,
I think we should backtrack a tiny bit. Why do people try to change things on peak week? So a week before the show, what are people trying to achieve with peak week?
well, I mean, ultimately, you're trying to achieve the look that the judging panel is looking for, right? So the criteria. So you're trying to be the leanest, the fullest, the best condition for that particular class. And the reality of it is, if you're not lean enough, which is the key, right? There is no amount of water and sodium and carbohydrates and all these magic tricks and take this magic pill and snap your heels 3 times together and wish there's no place like home. It's not going to fix it. If you're running around trying to change all these things in peak week, or thinking that if you do something new, it's going to suddenly bring your physique into line. Look, peak week doesn't fix the 16 to 20 weeks of prep you've done. If you haven't done that properly, the reality is you're just not going to be ready. And I think that's the whole thing. Is like every answer that you ask an athlete should change how you coach. The best coaches that I know are very curious people. They're constantly asking why. Not how can I make this more complicated.
I think it's a very
You've
common
constantly,
it's a common thing that, like, I don't know how common it is now, but I know when I first started competing, it was a very common thing of, like, when you're a few weeks out, maybe 2-3 weeks out, you're like, yeah, I still have peak week, I'm fine, I can still drop, like, it's going to change things. Like, it's a very common, I think, misconception. Like, you shouldn't be trying to dramatically change anything in peak week. It should be minor tweaks. If you aren't there at a week out, you're not going to be there the following week unless it's very minor tweaks. Like when we're talking at like the pro level, when it's like things like filling out, sure, that's going to make a difference versus being flat. But if you're trying to get leaner or suddenly trying to have, I don't know, tie-ins because of peak week, not going to happen.
I mean, the reality is, look, peak week is about protecting the work that you did during prep, not about reinventing it. Like if, you've told me before that, the peak weeks that I've given you have been boring as hell because there's nothing, what's good. I mean, I think the first peak we did, the first show that we did together, we didn't do a peak week at all. And you looked at me like I was insane. You're like, what? And I'm like, why?
I need to.
Yeah, don't need to. But we'll go through that a bit later as well. But it's about, as I said, it's about protecting it, right? It's not reinventing it. Like, as you said, if the tie-ins aren't there on Saturday before the show, the reality is they're not going to be there on the Saturday of the show. So if an athlete is lean, if they're full, they're digesting food well, they're sleeping well, and they look fantastic, what exactly am I trying to fix in peak week? Sometimes the hardest coaching decision to make on peak week is just leaving shit the hell alone.
100%, 100%. Like as you say, the more variables you change, the more chances there are to go wrong. Like there are certain things that you can, I guess, take out to make those 0.5% difference. Like what you said about like the Diet Coke, for example. Yeah, you can pull that. If it's the only thing keeping you surviving and you just need a sip, I'm like, it's probably not gonna cut your placing time.
If something like Diet Coke or whatever is not causing you any form of bloating issues, it's not causing you any form of digestion, why would you take it away from somebody? I mean, perhaps hard enough. You're not trying to be sucking the soul out of the athlete. It's like...
You're not? What?
No, well, I know.
What?
I know. Maybe I've got that wrong. But, it's... Look, perhaps hard enough. And it's like, again, if you can handle it and you've been handling it, I mean, we used to say, no artificial sweeteners, no artificial colors, take all of this stuff out, take this out, take this out, take this out. If you've been running all that stuff for 16 weeks, I'm sorry, but taking it out the week of is just going to make for one really, really unhappy athlete. And they're probably not going to like you very much if you're a coach. I don't think, athletes think they're paying coaches to make changes. I don't think they are. I think they're paying coaches to know when not to make changes. You should never mistake activity for accuracy. Just because you're changing 6 things doesn't mean you're improving the athlete. Sometimes you're just changing 6 things so you look like you know what you're doing. Experience shouldn't make coaching more complicated. It should actually make it simpler. And eventually, I think coaches just need to stop trying to impress other coaches.
It's always like it doesn't sell. Being like, okay, we're not doing anything. We're just resting this week. That doesn't sound good. It sounds good to say, oh yeah, I've got this secret method for peak week that's going to make your tie-ins pop or da 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 da. That sounds much better and it's going to sell much better. It makes you sound fancy. But saying like, oh yeah, okay, so on peak week, yeah, we don't do anything.
I mean, who are you selling this to? I mean, the reality of it is, you're already coaching this athlete, right? So it's like, who are they trying to impress with this? It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's just confusing the athlete. So,
all right. So, shall we start with move on to one of our more controversial topics of the day?
God, I know what you're going to say.
Water loading. What is it? Who is it for? Why do we or do we not do it?
Okay. So that's generally when somebody says peak week, right? That's the first thing that comes in their head is water. Not because it's the most important variable, but because it's one of the things that's probably most understood. So before anyone gets upset with me, I'm not saying water loading is always wrong, but it's a different question. You need to understand why this athlete might need it. You need to sort of understand the mechanisms behind it. The biggest misconception is that people confuse making an athlete lighter with making them look better. And the reality is they're not the same thing. So water loading comes from different sports. Like a boxer or a mixed martial arts fighter or something like that, or a wrestler or a weightlifter, they need to make a weight. A bikini athlete is judged on shape, balance, fullness, presentation, not the number of scales on the scales, right? So the reality, it's a different problem for a bikini athlete than it is, say, for somebody who or even for like a male bodybuilder or something like that with more muscle mass. So it really comes back down to the physiology about it. You have to keep it simple. When people say they want to fill out, they're normally talking about muscle glycogen. They're not talking about water. Like they think water makes them, will make them spill over. The reality is that you need water for it to actually work. So when you're talking about using
hydrate,
it's carbohydrate, not that two goes together. So like when they're talking about water loading, they start loading. I mean, God, we talked to one of the girls last week in Palmerston North, and she was about 3'2" tall and probably weighed 20 kilos in a dripping wet, out of the shower. And I think she said she was 8 liters of water loading. And I looked at her and went,
I know, I
Are
think
you?
it was 9. I think it was 9 because I think it was more than what I've done because I did my first prep, I did 8 liters and that was miserable.
Yeah,
And I'm a taller girl.
yeah.
I
And it's
felt
like, no.
drunk.
hmm So it's when people say that, oh, I'm water loading so that I can fill out as I get in the last 3 days, my carb depletion and my water loading and blah, 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 blah. And you generally start with a higher level of water and then you bring it down. And at the same time, your carbohydrates sort of go low and then come up. And it's like, so hang on. If water is coming down and carbohydrates are going up, and I'll talk a little bit about the physiology behind that in a minute. Again, rocket science, people. 1 plus 1. This. So the reality of water is it's about glycogen, right? Muscle glycogen. And glycogen doesn't just sit in the muscle itself. It's stored alongside water. And we kind of know what it is, but if anybody tells you there's an exact formula, they're full of crap. So a practical estimate is around 3 grams of water for every gram of glycogen stored. And the exact amount will vary, but there is a relationship that exists. So it's kind of where I struggle with one of bodybuilders' biggest contradictions, right? We want to maximize the amount of muscle glycogen because that makes you look full, makes you look like you're not spilling over. So this makes sense. You explain this one to me, Rachel. Then why do we aggressively remove one of the things that supports the storage of glycogen?
Because it sounds fancy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't manipulate
okay,
water.
actually, because it is beneficial though for some of the open dudes, right?
Yeah.
But that's
the argument is, but you also have to get the formula right. So
yes,
it's about the mechanism. So it's like water has become bodybuilding's favorite scapegoat, right? Athlete looks flat, water. Athlete looks soft, water. Okay, sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's body fat. Sometimes it's inflammation. Sometimes it's digestion. Sometimes they simply just aren't lean enough. It's usually actually the problem.
You can feel the difference between when you're holding water and when you are holding fat. So fat, you can kind of feel like a texture to it. It's kind of almost bumpy. It's not smooth. If you're holding water, it literally feels very smooth. When you like squeeze and roll the skin, it feels really, really smooth. So you can actually feel the difference if it is water. But I think and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but it's one of the main reasons that it tends to happen for bikini girls to be doing water loading because that's what the open bodybuilder dudes do, and they coach us like them.
100%. I mean, would I coach an open bodybuilder the same as a bikini athlete? Absolutely not. Different divisions, different muscle mass, different judging criteria, different objectives. But yet, I'll still see the identical peak week template, water template applied to a bikini athlete as an open bodybuilder. And I don't want to explain biology to people, but they're pretty sure there's a difference.
So what is it? 8 liters on Monday, Tuesday, 5 liters Wednesday, 4 liters Thursday, 1 liter Friday, and then 500 mils on Saturday.
If you're lucky to sip on the water, you don't want to spill over. The more, that's the thing. It's like the more different the athlete, the more individual the coaching.
Also, guys, let me know if that was actually your exact water loading, because I'm pretty sure that's the one I did off the top of my head. It could be off by one or 2 liters here and there, but if that's pretty much exactly what you do, drop a comment, because that'd be really interesting if everyone has the same one, especially seeing as I am on stage 53 kgs and 170 centimeters tall. So that'll be really interesting to hear what people are doing.
I mean, you can technically calculate it. I mean, okay, look, I personally, and I don't do it, I do not water load bikini or wellness or fitness model sometime, or fit model athletes, because it will achieve a different look. And there is technically a formula where you can sort of roughly calculate out, how many grams of glycogen do you need per kilogram of lean muscle and all that sort of carry on. I mean, there is technically a formula that you can use, but we can't accurately calculate it. So again, it comes down to experience. And so just arbitrarily saying, here's your water loading, your peak week water loading, when the athlete might already be lean enough, they might already be full enough, they might already be sleeping well, digesting well, looking fantastic. So again, why arbitrarily subject an athlete to an additional form of torture if it doesn't serve a purpose? And for most bikini
that's
athletes,
the other thing. You look like shit when you water load for the first few days. When you're drinking that much water, you will be retaining water, and you blow up and it like a water balloon, and it's not fun because you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, I'm 3 days out and I look like shit.
Yeah, it's like you're 3 days out and so you've been salting all your foods throughout your prep, and then suddenly the coach says, you cannot have sodium for the next 3 days. And you're like, your body
Fuck
literally
off.
goes, fuck off. It's like, no, I'm not playing this game. It's, if you're handling it and you've been handling it for the last 16 to 20 weeks, again, the physiology behind how your body works will always win. You got to ask yourself, what is the problem that I'm trying to solve? And if it's not, should I water load or should I not water load? It's like, am I trying to, why would I water load? What is it going to achieve? Is it going to solve a problem? And the reality of it is, if you're not lean enough, water loading's not going to solve that problem. If you're, if you're over depleted, water loading is not going to solve that problem, particularly if you're water loading and pulling carbs. I'm sorry, if any coach says to me that that's what they're going to do, I'd be looking at them and going, 1 minute, sunshine. Could you just explain that to me? I'm kind of confused because don't I need one for the other to happen? And then I'll sit back and wait for them to give me an answer. And usually it's going to be, well, that's just what you do. Fucking idiots.
Yeah, Chris, we're doing really well on trying not to piss anyone off. We're doing great so far.
No, you said you were going to try not to piss anyone off. I covered my ass by saying this was your idea, so therefore I cannot be held responsible.
You're the one who says it. You're the one who says the thing. All right, so let's move on to the next controversial topic because we've clearly obviously stated our thoughts around water loading for bikini wellness, all of those types of
Remember, we
athletes.
are only talking about, we're talking about the ladies' classes, not talking about open bodybuilding and all this stuff.
If you're like competing at the pro level in like the IFBB, for example, then yeah, maybe it's going to be a little bit more effective or like more necessary. That's a little bit different potentially, depending on the person.
Question.
But again,
but that's a different question.
For amateurs, first timers, anyone.
And it also comes down to the physiology. What are you trying to achieve? I mean, with say open bodybuilders, where you're trying to get that super grainy look and then ramp the glycogen into the muscle so it fills out, then that's a different thing. And then the methodology behind that and the physiology behind that makes sense. But for the average bikini athlete, even at the IFBB Pro League level, where, as you can see from the recent results in the Tampa Pro this weekend, those girls were seriously conditioned and seriously jacked. But then it depends on, again, what the desired result is.
True. All right, so
that should always be the answer. What is the result that you're looking for? Not we water load.
Just because. Next one is a fun one that I'm very glad I don't have to do anymore, is the pulling of sodium. And it makes me very sad. If I've done it before and it was not a fun experience. So now people look at me backstage with my soy sauce poured all over my rice and they're like, oh my God, you're allowed that much. That's a lot of sodium. I'm like, yeah, I usually double this.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, look, if you pull something out of an athlete's prep in the week of peak week that they have been doing, your body will react and it creates a negative loop, essentially. It's like if you're used to having that level of sodium, pulling it out is not going to make you look fuller. And if anything, it's going to flatten the hell out of you. And then you have to start thinking about potassium. And, when you start thinking sodium and potassium and glycogen and all this sort of stuff, you go down a whole different rabbit hole. And that's when,
because correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, for those of us who know less about all the intricacies, sodium and potassium help to pull water in/out of the muscle.
I mean, one of the first things you learn in cellular biology is that every cell has what's called a sodium and potassium pump.
The pump.
That's the little pump.
I do remember that.
Yep, see, there you go. Something sticks. It's about the only thing I remember from my university biology classes. But essentially, if you've got too much of one osmosis. Or the other... Yeah,
kind of like osmosis, but not.
The cells are trying to find balance. And if you've got too much sodium outside of the cell and too much potassium inside the cell, or the balance is off, it will push the potassium out and bring sodium in. Conversely, the other way around, if there's too much sodium in the cell, it will push the sodium out and try to bring potassium in. The trick is getting it to pull the sodium into the cell, because when it pulls sodium, it'll also pull a water molecule with it. And that's when you get the fullness. So, yeah, messing around with sodium can backfire on you. And that's when you see people just go. And again, if you're used to a certain level of sodium, pulling it out is not necessarily going to be.
So, guys, the really unhealthy trick here is to make sure that your just sodium content is really, really high all the time.
Yeah, it might not do much for your blood pressure or hypertension, but it's
low blood pressure anyway. It's fine. I could use a bit of extra blood pressure.
Exactly.
Guys, don't listen to anything that I'm saying right now, because that's probably not the greatest advice.
It comes down to. I was talking to one of our team members recently, and she did one of the shows that she did. They shoveled a truckload of sodium into her like 2 or 3 days out from the show, and she just blew up like a water balloon. And there was no reasoning to do that, because she hadn't been having sodium pretty much during her entire prep. So again, you introduced a variable that wasn't there, and peak week is not the time to introduce a variable that you're not used to. It's, if you don't know how the body's going to react to it, adding another variable during peak week is just going to stress you out as an athlete, and that's not really going to achieve much.
I have actually seen also people literally just spooning or pouring salt backstage.
Yeah. Well, it's like one's saying that you have to have sour gummy bears backstage because it's got the right balance of potassium to such and such. And some brainiac with many more brain cells than me has probably worked out that there is actually a technical reason for it. But the reality of it is,
they taste good. They taste good.
Yeah, they taste good. And you're really not going to, in that half an hour, you're not going to achieve any miracle backstage by scoffing a bunch of gummy bears backstage. So, which have got the sour one on, regardless of how much you might like it. And I promise I won't pick on this particular athlete this week, because they have identified themselves in a few episodes, and they've made me feel guilty.
I think I know who we're talking about there. But yes, so we're not. Our stance is to not play around with sodium too much, basically, for our female categories.
No, I mean, again, if it's been doing you well for a 16 to 20 week prep, changing it in peak week is more than likely going to yield a negative result. And there will be coaches out there that will vehemently disagree with what I've said. And that's fine. They can get their own podcast and say whatever they want.
There we go. Exactly. We can say whatever the hell we want. All right. Next controversial topic. Depletions, or depletion week. So I've done this as well in the past. It was known as a hell week. It really was, or like 2 weeks basically. So the week or 2 weeks before peak week, you basically are on almost no carbs, like 50 grams of carbs or something. 40. I think I got down to 30 on a couple of days. It was
between 30 and 50 is less than 50 is considered ketosis, and okay. Look, does it work? To an extent, yes. I mean, but essentially, you think about what are you doing? You're trying to mechanically, artificially, completely flatten the muscle cells. So if you think the body can only hold a certain amount of glycogen, right? Which is all about glycogen. It's not about carbs. It's about glycogen. How much can the muscle hold, and how much can the liver hold? So once the liver is full, goes into the cells. How much can it sell? The cells hold anything, and above that will be then essentially gets that spilled over type thing. The theory is if you deplete as much of the glycogen as you can out of the liver and out of the muscle cells, then they will be very, very flat. And then the idea is you shove a shit ton of carbs in to essentially pull when that glycogen goes into the muscle, it's going to pull water, it's going to pull sodium into the cell, which is then going to volumize it, fill it out so your skin gets tighter. It doesn't distinguish with what's under the skin and what's in the muscles. So that whole extracellular versus intracellular water levels, you can fuck off. There's not a tap that we can suddenly go, oh, I'll give you this and this will happen. And it doesn't work that way. Coaches might try to tell you that, but read a physiology book, dumbass. Valerie's telling me that to real. Fuck.
Yep. Chris, you're making a very big assumption here that most bodybuilders can read.
Ooh, you're going to get in trouble for that one, not me. I'm okay. I didn't say that, everybody.
Sorry, that was a gross stereotype, and I apologize.
Yeah, it was. Yes. We'll have that in writing, please. But it's the theory being that you deplete it all and you do these glycogen depletion exercises, which is basically volume. And then you start shoving carbohydrates into the system, and then that will then fill the muscle cells up and you will look leaner and tighter and all that sort of stuff. It does actually work, and there is a methodology and a science behind that. Again, if you're not lean enough, it doesn't make jack shit difference. At the end of the day, you still have to be lean. And that's why when you see some of these athletes, particularly at the elite level, and you look at them and they particularly they go on about, okay, bikini shouldn't be shredded, it shouldn't be this, it shouldn't be that. And then you see some of these girls 3 days before a show and they are like striated and feathering and veins and shit. And you're like, holy. And then you see them on stage and you're like, oh. So yeah, there is some methodology to some logic to it, but you don't have to do that for a week or so beforehand. I mean, the reality of it is it doesn't take your body that long to replenish carbohydrates. Everybody's slightly different, and you might need to, some people need to carb up a little bit longer, but the reality of it is it actually only takes about, from the latest research that I've seen, only about 2 or 3 days, and then that's what's stored is gone. So torturing somebody for a week, the reality of it is you're going to end up breaking down protein, which means you're going to break down muscle cells, which means kind of defeats the primary purpose of being a bodybuilder, building muscle. So, yes.
Mic drop.
Do need to deplete to an extent. But again, it only makes any difference if you're at that appropriate level of leanness. And for the average bikini athlete or the less muscled female categories, you don't need to do that. Like, again, different rules would apply for a bodybuilder or a classic men's, a physique or anything like that. Yeah, it's slightly different. But, we don't care about that. We're talking about sparkles here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's athlete dependent. Every athlete is slightly different. And some athletes deplete a lot quicker. Some athletes take a little bit longer. But frequently, the depletion process, you have to look at it within the realms of what you're trying to achieve. Like, I've seen people who increase the cardio output, particularly on a Stairmaster or something, and then it just starts causing all this extra inflammation and all that sort of carry on, and then your body wants to hold on to things, and it's just like, no, there's no need, there's no need to torture the athlete. Well, unless they deserve it.
Unless you just want to, yeah.
Yeah. There's a few that I don't mind torturing. But I won't
watch out if you're doing really severe depletions, why.
That should be a sign.
Your coach just doesn't like you.
Yes, your coach is like, I don't like you. Secret's out.
God damn. So, anyway, all right, what else we got? So, some of the other things that I've seen. Oh, well, okay, actually, this one is important. Carb loading. We've kind of touched on this, but why do we carb load? Why is it important? When should you carb load?
Well, carb loading, everybody's different, right? It also depends on what you're doing. What are you trying to peak for? Like, are you peaking for a regional or are you peaking for a nationals? It's all very different. So carb loading is the sole purpose of carb loading is, again, to pull the glycogen into the muscle cell to make it look fuller, which obviously makes you look leaner, makes you, meet whatever the criteria is. And everybody's slightly different. Like, some people will start carbing up Thursday. Some people will start carbing up on Friday. Some people who just, one of the girls on the team, I'm probably going to have to start carbing her on Tuesday because she just hoovers food. In fact, I'll send you a video of her later on.
I know exactly who this is.
Yep. It's like, holy
She
Jesus.
will be so happy to hear that.
Yes, it's like, oh my God. It's like, okay, show off. But again, you're doing it to achieve a final look. But again, if you're not lean enough, it's kind
not
of
going to make a huge
pointless.
Difference.
It's not going to make a huge difference. And in fact, it will make so little difference that it's literally negligible. So why do it?
it is interesting because it's like things like even one of the more tangible ones is bloating. You'll notice that a lot more when you're lean in prep than you will when you're in the off season. In the middle of off season, you might be like, oh, I'm a little bloated, but the same level of bloating when you're lean in prep is like, oh my god, I'm pregnant. So it's like just the difference in how much things show through the skin when you're stage lean versus an off season. If you're actually shredded, like it does, like things do make a lot more of a difference. If it's not, you've got that layer of fat there. It's kind of covering any difference that's being made. So yeah, you have to be lean for most of these things to work. So Chris,
and that's, you should always ask you the question is, why am I doing this? What is the purpose? What is the mechanism behind it? It's not just because this is the way you do things. It's like, again, I think it comes back to, like I mentioned, why are you peaking? As mentioned before, Rich, with, when you did South Islands last year, I think you were 2 weeks into prep. And it's, the question's not really, how do I peak? The question becomes, what are you actually peaking for? And it always changes. Like, if you're peaking for a regional qualifier and nationals are still 8 weeks away, your first question isn't how many carbs are we eating. The first question is, what's the objective? And if it is just to qualify for nationals, you're not trying to squeeze every last percentage out of an athlete. You're trying to nurse them across the line because their real target is nationals or potentially worlds, or it could be a pro qualifier. Peak week really isn't just about the physiology. It's a strategy, and again, we're coming into regional season, so you're not expecting to see every athlete at their peak.
Which actually brings me to an interesting question that might be a little bit controversial as well, as always for today.
All right. Get me in trouble. Come on.
What's your thoughts on mock peak weeks? Because I know there's a couple of coaches that will swear by them, but I know that also there's a lot of people who aren't fans of them as well.
Define mock peak week.
Like a fake peak week, or like a practice peak week.
Oh, no, I love them. I love them. I think you've probably heard me say numerous times that I personally like athletes to be ready about 4 weeks early, so that you can do 4 mock runs. My theory, and not everybody will agree with me, but yeah, too late, is it gives you multiple opportunities to try different peaking methodologies. So like, what happens if we start carving up with this amount, this number of days out? What happens if we add extra sodium at this point? So you can try something. Basically, I always go with the rule, okay, you're going to be on stage about 6 o'clock on a Saturday. What are you going to look like if we do this at 6 o'clock on Saturday? We take the pictures and we go, okay, cool. Then deload, start again. So you run another week and then you try a different methodology, because every athlete's different, and what worked for Rachel might not work for Sarah, or might not work for Jolene or Angela or any of these other people that we can think of. So you try it two or three times, and then you decide which one you like the look of best, so that when you get to the actual show, you should be backstage chilling like a villain, because it's like, well, I know what it can look like in 3 hours. So I do like it. I think, to me, it makes sense. I mean, okay, if you are quite a seasoned competitor and you've been around for a while,
probably don't need it as much.
Probably don't need it as much, unless there's been like a year or so between when you competed, because shit changes.
If you've got a new coach.
And you've got a new coach. The new coach try different things. So yeah, no, I think they're a great thing. So if you disagree with me, too bad. I don't care.
Next one. This is something that a lot of competitors love, but it's also something that's quite I've been told to do this and I chose not to do it at the time. This is the famous burger the night before the show.
Have you had a burger during your prep?
Like 6 weeks out, maybe.
Yeah. Again, if you're introducing a new variable, you're asking for trouble. Primarily not, if you break it down, just a simple, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats and stuff like that. Generally, it's going to work because somebody has sodium depleted you and you're adding the stuff, and generally burgers are high in sodium and they're high in fat, so it slows down the digestion process. Sodium gets in, fills you up, yay! Great. It also puts a shitload of food in your digestive system, and that's what can cause the little stage baby. No. There's also people who say, eat a cheeseburger between prejudging and finals. Well, we don't really do prejudging and finals anymore, so that kind of...
Well, the other famous one is the pancakes the morning of the show.
Again, if you're used to having pancakes, great. But if you're not, and you're introducing a new... Like, if you basically
I believe
cut
it's
out a lot of processed foods...
specifically the McDonald's pancakes, I believe, is what I... I think that's quite a trend.
Yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on that one. That's like the old apple pie filling trick that Ronnie Coleman supposedly did. It had nothing to do with the apple pie. It had to do with the filling was actually made out of cyclic dextrin as a sugar, which was a rapid gastric emptying sugar, basically. And so everybody's eating this apple pie, and Ronnie's just sitting there going, "No, I'm just eating the jelly, you dumb fucks." So, yeah, no. Again, do not introduce a variable that your body is not used to. Like, you've probably taken out a lot of processed foods, and that's why we do remove stuff, is you remove the stuff that you cannot control or that you could contribute to something, like some people say don't eat sugar-free gum for a week because you get bloated.
I mean, that depends how much you're going to eat, because some people do go through like an entire pack a day. They're like chain smokers, but with gum.
Yeah, but if it doesn't affect your digestive system and doesn't cause any discomfort or any form of bloating or any water retention in the last 16 weeks... There is calories in
that much gum.
Yeah, but it ain't going to make that much.
That's true. But still, that's a lot of gum. Some people go through, like, they'll have a new piece every 20 minutes.
Probably the more interesting question is like the one you said about, having a burger and that the night before. It's the ones that have the burger and that the night after of the show, and then wake up the next morning with looking vascular and hard and jacked, and you sit there and go, "But what did you do last night?" And they go, "Well, I had..." So maybe you should have had that the night before because, I can't do that. You're like, "But you just said you look better." "Oh, yeah." It's like, okay. Fine.
Well, the other common one that I see is people having their foods changed in, like, on show day or the couple of days before, because it's, what's the word? It's like, it's the rice cakes versus rice, basically.
Yeah.
We're going to get in trouble.
Rice cakes are messy, I mean, do I use them? Sure. But I would only put them in if somebody, I think you were sitting backstage at the
I tend to have to shovel rice. It's very miserable.
Yeah. But again, it comes down to what your digestive system's used to. And like the reality of it is rice cakes and I'm going to get so much trouble for this. You could be sitting back there with your rice cakes and honey or your rice cakes and jam. Actually, I quite like rice cakes and lemon curd because lemon curd's got some fat in it. It slows down the absorption process. So you get a little bit of the sugar hit, but it also slows it down a bit. So you're not having to eat so much. So you're not having to be so digestive. But you might as well eat a bloody Kellogg's LCM bar with unicorn sprinkles on it because it's a lot easier. And the macros are pretty much the same. So, fucking go out, Rice Krispies and marshmallows. But yeah.
This is true. Which show was it? It was I think it was the IFBB Nationals, and I was just I got to the point I was just eating chocolate because I just couldn't eat food. Like, I was really struggling to ingest food, so we just needed something that was going to be very calorie dense, like sugar dense, carbohydrate dense, that I was going to be able to get into my system.
Yeah. And again, if you've been having, if you've been having a bit of chocolate or whatever every day during your prep, it's...
So tell your coaches you need 1 square of chocolate every day just to keep your body used to it.
Excuse me. Yeah. So now I know where it's coming from. Right. Okay. Note to Team Bold. You've been rumbled. Rachel has let the cat out of the bag. I know where it's coming from now. No more chocolate for you.
Remember, if you grate it onto your oats, it's a seasoning.
Yeah.
Okay.
God help me.
Okay. Speaking of the carbohydrates, is the guzzling honey backstage? Chris is just looking with disappointment right now. If you can't see him, he's just got this very disappointed look on his face.
Yeah. Look, the question would be why? Do you need to get, you are still trying to obviously get carbs into your system, and personally, no, doesn't. Oh, no, better yet, guzzling the honey and then also grinding the salt grinder into your mouth at the same time. So you've got this perfect balance of sodium and sugar, and it's going to make you so much fuller. Oh, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry. Oops. Valerie's like, crap, she's going to be bleeping shit. I'm in so much trouble.
You have the censored.
Does it make sense? Okay, yes, you need the carbohydrates. It's a simple sugar. It's going to get into your system fairly quickly. But the reality of it is you're trying to maintain this level of fullness. And if you are introducing these like high, essentially, I mean, basically they're going to spike your sugar levels, right? So it's like, what's the purpose? Timed release stuff, it's just, people, it's just because somebody did it on Instagram doesn't mean it's right.
Okay, we got another one then. On a similar note, kind of.
Yeah, good. You're just trying to get me into trouble, Rachel. I am. See the method of this podcast this week.
It's very fun because actually recently, in case you haven't noticed the last few weeks, Chris has somehow been broken, his filter. There's like a hole in it right now. So things just keep slipping through and it's hilarious. So the next one is, this is another common thing I see backstage, is alcohol. Doing a shot backstage.
Again, you can thank Ronnie Coleman and Kevin Lavroni for this one. The so-called, it brings out your vascularity and all this sort of stuff. No. I mean, to an extent, yes. What it does is it relaxes you, right? That's pretty much alcohol's job. But it also causes inflammation, so therefore it seems a bit stupid. And also, let's face facts, in New Zealand and most places around the world, a lot of these bodybuilding shows are done in schools and stuff like that. Drinking, or in churches, I've seen it done as well. Drinking backstage is probably not exactly appropriate.
I'm not going to lie, a lot of teachers do have alcohol at the school.
You probably shouldn't tell that one. Should keep that amongst, that's the secret
they
code,
don't
Rachel.
necessarily drink it at the school usually, and usually it's only on a Friday after all the kids have left, okay?
Good cover.
No, usually. Look, you don't know what's in that water bottle.
No, that's true. Jesus Christ. We're going to get in so much trouble. We apologize now to all the teachers that have been across the globe. It can have going back to our discussion we had during the week, Rachel, about vessel dilation. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep. It can have a benefit for that. It also has the opposite effect of allowing you not to be able to keep a pump because the blood only flows one way. So, short of relaxing you a little bit, no, it's just, again, it's a bit of a wives' tale.
So basically, the main use for it would be to do it directly before you step on stage to make you feel more confident in your posing.
Yep, it's called Dutch courage.
Oh, I thought it was Irish. Is it not Irish?
Yeah, no, Dutch. I don't know why it's called Dutch courage. I
don't know. I thought most alcohol-related things were supposed to be Irish, like Irish coffee.
Potentially possible, yes.
All right. Well, I think that's most of the controversial ones that I've got on me here. A couple more, actually. Do we need to do check-ins every hour?
Look, backstage, Rachel, when you're competing, am I hovering over you every 5 minutes, checking on you, making sure that you're doing stuff? Or do I just basically stick my head in every hour or so, go, you all good? Okay, what do you need?
I was going to say, unless I'm backstage about to go on stage, then you're a menace.
Oh, yeah, that's different.
You don't leave me alone at that point, and I'm like, Chris, fuck off. I'm tired.
Yeah. I don't want to do any more of these.
My shoulders hurt. No, other than that, it's like, have you got your coffee? You've got your caffeine fix? You good? Have you eaten? Okay, I'll see you later.
Yeah, I'll be back before you have to be on stage. I mean, look, these days, a coach doesn't need to be there backstage, right? In fact, some federations are not. A lot of federations are not allowed backstage. And most coaches these days are remote. And the reality of it is sending a check-in photo every hour backstage in some form of dodgy lighting to a coach who's then going to say, oh, yeah, now you can have an extra, you need to have another 30 grams of carbs, or that's going to happen. Really? Honestly, I think that's more about theater, and that's more about the coach wanting to make themselves
You just got me on a good one.
Here we go.
Should we know what our meals are, or should we have to wait for each check-in to find out what our meals are and what food we're going to eat?
Rachel, are you trying to get me in trouble?
You brought it up. You brought it up.
Okay. Now, before anyone gets defensive and I offend their sensibilities, if you don't know what you're doing on the stage day before you even get there, there's a problem. The reality of it is, there ain't nothing we can do in half an hour that's going to change. It's going to come down to what you do. If your prep wasn't right, it's going to be right. You should know pretty much what your whole day is going to be before you even get there. You should be prepared for it. You shouldn't be waiting for a text from a coach saying, you can have one extra rice cake, because they can't tell from a bloody WhatsApp picture. It's hard enough to tell when you're looking at somebody directly, let alone on the other side of the freaking planet. No, you should basically, when you meet backstage, you should be chilling. You should be relaxed. You shouldn't be stressing out because your coach is fassing over you, like, send me a picture, of this. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And then they turn around and say, okay, now you have some honey. You're like, well, you didn't tell me I needed honey. I didn't bring any honey with me.
That's such a peeve of mine when coaches change what foods you're eating on like a daily basis. Like one time I got told to have Cocoa Pops. It stayed in my plan for like 3 days. And that's it. So I had to buy this whole box of Cocoa Pops and it was immediately removed. And I was like,
Yeah.
What a waste.
Look.
And then because you have to go to the grocery store all the time and it's so annoying. Give me the same foods.
That whole hovering around backstage, it's like, if I'm hovering over somebody, I'm just going to stress them out. The reality is, my job is done. As a coach, it's almost like it's like going to surgery. It's like, once you go through that emergency door, it's like, bye. I'll see you on the other side. Good luck. There's not much as a coach I can do. Hopefully, I've created the environment that you are relaxed, that you feel comfortable and secure and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's that whole tweaking stuff. Activity doesn't mean accuracy. Send me a picture. Oh, you need to do this. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you're doing that. That's confusing for the athlete. And, you want the athlete to be relaxed. You want them to, again, they're already stressed. They've done all the work. The reality is that backstage stuff should be really boring. You should have all your food. It might be, okay, you need to have more food because it's running a bit late. Now, that's got nothing to do with, say, getting fuller. That's literally, okay, they're running an hour behind schedule. So you are starting to go through that food that's in your system and you are starting to deplete. So
or actually, disclaimer, there is people like our freaky person who's going to be on stage in a week or so, who is probably going to chew through carbs very, very quickly. And so sometimes people do just chew through their carbs a little bit quicker than expected, and they do need a bit of extra food. But more or less, you should have your meals planned and maybe have a bit of extra food for emergency. So have your meals 1 through 5, whatever they are, and then you have an extra container of chicken and rice just in case.
Yep. Just in case. I mean, as I said, by the time you've gone through registrations, you've gone through check-in, and you've gone through that backstage door, my coaching should already be finished. Peak week or show day isn't when you start coaching. It's where you trust the coaching has already been done.
To tell people, if you are not lean enough and you've followed the plan to a T, blame your coach.
Exactly. By show day, you should already know your meals. You should already know your timing. You should know your carbohydrates. You should know your fluids. You should know your sodium. You should know what happens if prejudging runs late. You should know what happens if your digestion slows down.
Because it always runs late. Let's be honest.
It always runs late. And you should know what to do. Well, what plan B looks like if it's running late, or if you are feeling really hungry, or for example, you suddenly start getting really, really vascular. It's like, okay, well, what do I need to do? None of what happens on show day should surprise you.
You do need to drink water. You need to drink water. Do not just not drink water all day. That is dangerous.
No, it's just, again, there's people say, oh, you need to sip on 250. I heard a coach say that backstage at the Great Lakes Classic, and I came up to you and said, who the
But it's like, because you see people who are only allowed to have literally 1 teaspoon of water every hour, and it's like, And if they are playing with sodium, it can get dangerous. Like,
Yeah.
that's what causes people to pass out.
Yeah, and that's when you hear, particularly in enhanced and non-tested federations, they start talking about popping diuretics, whether you're using potassium-sparing diuretics or using moduretics, all these sort of different things, and that's a whole different work. I mean, the reality of it is, my job, if I'm at the show, and I do like to go to the shows, I actually like to be there and help the athletes pump up and do the glazing and making sure that, but my job then is about confidence
Support.
building. It's bringing your confidence up. So you're being part of it. I might crack the odd dad joke. Actually, to be realistic, all of my jokes are bad. I'll generally tell you to stop overthinking things, and I'll just tell you to sit back and relax. That's why I'm generally, if I'm at a show, I'm not backstage that much, because I mean, I just want you to. Well, actually, with Rachel, it's very difficult because she's generally running around fixing everybody's bikinis, and I'm like, "Will you just calm down?"
Stressing about other people stops me from stressing about myself.
Clearly.
Well, no, I don't have time to stress about myself because I'm already stressed about other people. So that kind of
that
solves one problem-ish.
Yeah. But it's also fun when you watch people say.
Well, so I have to be composed on the outside, because if I look stressed while fixing someone else's bikini, they stress. So I have to internally be like, "It's okay. You have time with my sewing needle. It's okay. You're fine. We got it. We're almost there. We have time." And internally, I'm like, shit, get it done.
Less worried about your own look on stage, more worried about everybody else's. And I'm
yes.
Which is why when you had people in the last show come back and say, going, "He's just told you to relax and sit down, and you do not need this and the other," and you're like, "What's he going to do? I'm going to fluff your pillows for you or something?" I mean, I'm like, just sit down and relax. Again, your coach's job is to build your confidence and say, also, I like to be at the front. As soon as you pumped up, I mean, I'm damn near sprinting out.
So that we can yell at you on stage. We want to yell at you.
We can yell at you. Yeah. And both Rachel and I have really loud voices too, which is fun. So all you girls competing in South Island in a couple of weeks, you're screwed. Sorry,
judges.
I mean, we apologize now. But the reality is, look, your coach shouldn't become a security blanket for you. They should become a source of confidence. That's a huge difference. If we've educated you properly, we practice everything, we've trialed things during PEP, whether I'm standing 5 meters away from you yelling posing instructions or I'm 5,000 kilometers away, the plan doesn't suddenly stop working because I'm not holding your hand. If I'm holding your hand, no disrespect to coaches who work this way, but then I don't trust that my plan is working. And I have to have trust that the athlete is executing the plan. And you'll know that when they're backstage. And trust me, I won't sugarcoat it. If you haven't been doing the plan, I will tell you, like, well, did you do what you were told? No? Hey, we're just going to see what happens.
Exactly. So in summary, we basically should be mostly quite chill on peak week, because in theory, you should already be ready for the show. It's not a magical week where you suddenly get shredded six-pack and tie-ins. Now, if your coaches do tell you to do some of the things that we potentially disagree with that we've said in this podcast, it's not to say that they are. Well, actually, hang on. We don't just do it without question, though. We ask why. That's what I was about to say.
Trust but verify.
Yes.
Yeah, it does. I mean, look, can physiques change slightly backstage? Of course they can. Can I completely change your physique in a final hour? Not naturally. So I think coaches sometimes massively overestimate what they can genuinely achieve in those last 60 minutes. Your job as a coach is to keep your athlete calm. That's the best thing that you can do for them. And if that is running out and getting them a coffee, or in my wife's case, trying to go to KFC and buy a coffee for Rachel and then getting pissed off at the drive-thru because they didn't sell coffee at KFC, which was entertaining. That coffee story was actually people's reaction when we bought you a coffee backstage. They were like, yeah.
You would think that coffee was illegal. I'm like, guys, no, I need my caffeine. It's literally bean juice. It's water with beans. What's your issue? It's a vegetable at this point.
Exactly. I mean, it's the liquid of life. It's not a
I know.
magic supplement. I mean, the reality of it is, you know,
Your coach is probably telling you to take diuretic tea or whatever anyway, like, or the alcohol. Same concept.
I mean, as I said, you had coffee every day throughout your prep. You tolerated it well. It relaxes you, even though it's a stimulant. It's one of the weird things.
It's because ADHD.
It makes you feel normal. Show day peak week is not the time to suddenly decide coffee is evil because somebody on social media says it so. If it's worked for 16 to 20 weeks, it's going to work on show day.
I was shocked and horrified.
Yeah, it also stops Rachel from ripping everybody's heads off, so that's probably a good reason.
People might die if I don't have caffeine.
In fact, if I know that I have to wake you up early in the morning, I normally show up with it. Go. It's like sliding it into the lioness's den. It's like, just put that in first. Must pay tribute. Coffee. Yeah, exactly. Just a little sliding door. Slide it in and quickly jump back out of the way. But,
anyway, we should probably wrap up there. But yes, but again, just ask why, and yeah, try to chill out a little bit. I think most of it's actually done for psychological benefit, with quotation marks. Most of it, I think, is to make you feel like you're doing something more to look better and to make yourself think that you're going to look better. But I feel like often it does kind of work the other way with the psychology part of that. So yes, just relax, just don't stress out. And also asking questions of your coach does not mean you don't trust them. It just means you want to know the process, and that is okay.
And that is okay. Yeah. I mean, look, honestly, one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my many years of doing this is, look, peak week doesn't create great physiques. It reveals them. I think athletes give peak week far too much power. You know, they think if I nail peak week, I'll look incredible. Or if I get peak week wrong, I've ruined everything. I honestly don't believe either of those statements. Your physique wasn't built because of one burger, one rice cake, one coffee, a pinch of salt, and it wasn't built on Thursday or Friday or Saturday. I think it was built over the years that you've been training, and over the last 16 to 20 weeks, every training session, every meal, every cardio session, every posing session, every decision that you've made when nobody was watching, that's where your physique is built. The peak week simply gives you the opportunity to present all of that hard work.
Exactly. And that's it. That's all there is to it.
Yeah. And don't make it too complicated. It's like, you've done all the hard work. Have fun. Don't spend 16 to 20 weeks worrying about it and then spend the last 6 days convincing that you fucked up the last 16 weeks. Trust your preparation, trust your coach, but most importantly, trust yourself.
Exactly. You chose your coach for a reason, generally. So all right. And with that, we will sign off and we will see you all next week. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe, and share anything that you thought was interesting. Drop a comment, and we will see you guys all next week.
And we will be discussing, we will have done the Tauranga workshop by that stage. So we will be then getting ready to head on down to Christchurch for the South Island thing. So everybody have a great week. Enjoy your cardio. Remember, peak week's just part of the process. Roll with it. Have fun. And we'll see you all next month.
Enjoy.